Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where six mates unpack three topics over a new drink each week. Fuck it, just go with that. We'll fix it if it's... Welcome to another episode. I'm Marco, host for today. And in the room, I'll start with our guest for today, Lucas Marta. Hey guys, sorry, was too self-absorbed in it being my last podcast to remember to introduce that Lucas, on top of being a childhood friend of mine, is also a two-time Olympic bobsledder, and his journey getting to the Olympics is something that I wanted to share with everyone. So I invited him along to be part of the podcast. So back to the actual show.
Hey, how you going, guys?
Michael Duncan.
Hey guys.
Jacob Moffitt, the Prophet.
Afternoon.
Magic Matt Hanham.
Present.
And Conrad West.
G'day, Marco.
I'm in a better mood than the last time I hosted.
He's already said more now than he did in the first half hour of last week.
Yeah, I think
50 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah, 50 minutes of silence.
Wow.
So hosting and on drinks today, I have brought in a champagne, and actually Conrad has matched quite nicely the level of champagne we've gone. I brought
cold?
in... Yes, and it is cold. I wanted to keep it out to talk about it.
35 years.
Mate, that doesn't get old.
35 episodes old right now.
For true fans, for the ones that have been right back.
Yeah.
This bottle's really special to me. I've been sitting on it for ages. I bought it quite a while back. But it's a cool little story because the reason it's a Perrier-Jouet Belle Epoque. Belle Epoque's just a style of it's just when they're happy with the vintage, they put these really pretty flowers on the bottle and they jack the price up ridiculously. So that's basically what Belle Epoque means for that. But the reason I love this champagne is because it has really, really close memories, fond memories of hanging out with Dean, who I'm going to go be working in London with. And today being my last show with you guys.
I didn't mean to go woohoo just then, actually.
There you go.
Freudian
It is a celebration of sorts. Yeah?
Exactly.
It's a celebration.
Yeah, cool.
And so I really wanted to share it with you guys. And Kanye West has also brought in a bottle of Ruinart as well.
From the same place, or?
They're both from the region of Champagne, I guess. Well, yeah, they are.
They're both very good
Real
champagnes.
champagne.
I actually nearly bought that one.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
not
cool.
that one, but there was one in the shop. That was.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna drink sparkling anything, I think it's got to be champagne.
I remember
it for you.
Hey.
The flowers didn't do it for you.
Oh, well, you're not wearing your coral pants today.
You're very
mate.
bland today, Conrad.
No, he's got a nice jacket on, mate.
That's just blue. There's no colour in that.
He was wearing his scarf as well, made him look intellectual.
Hey, I was going to do that whole scarf thing that Marco did the other week. You know, where he wrapped it around like he had a sock around his neck.
I was looking at those photos. Anyway, while I'm pouring this, I might introduce...
Oh, look at the colour.
Very
Hey,
yellow.
what vintage is that, buddy?
1996.
Ooh, look at
I'll
that.
introduce
That is
today's guest, who is a childhood friend of mine. And we actually... How long had it been since we hung out?
Did you guys hit puberty together?
I'm still waiting to hit puberty. I'll make those jokes. Thank you very much.
I've taken his facial hair. Mate, I don't even know the last time we hung out. Probably 3 years ago since I saw you, but before that properly, maybe Disneyland when we were in year 6.
Really?
Yes.
Disney.
Yeah,
That was great.
amazing,
17 times on Space Mountain.
LA, that's LA, yeah?
That was LA,
Disneyland.
Disneyland.
LA Disneyland. And two Argentine families finding each other way back in the day and hanging out in Perth.
All right, cool. I didn't realise you're from Argentina.
Yeah, mum and dad are from Argentina, so
Oh, wow.
No,
that's
you're
how
born here.
parents-
No, so none of your siblings born there?
No, yeah, all 3 of us were born here, and then I think family, friends. I can't remember how our parents met.
Through...
Has to be a barbecue of some sort.
Salsa
It
dancing.
was some sort of barbecue or salsa dancing through the street. Maybe the same thing.
How many glasses we got? Who's missing a glass, by the way?
Yeah, 2 more.
2 more. Okay.
That colour
Is
is...
Steph having one with us?
That
Yeah,
is-
Steph,
the colour
do
is
you
intense.
want to
the
get
bottle.
involved today? Yeah?
Drink from the bottle.
Sweet,
Actually,
it's
you've got a
definitely
cold.
enough. I brought a couple of extra glasses. Do you mind passing me one of those glasses there? So they got introduced by just mutual friends, I'm pretty sure. And they're like, hey, you guys are both Argentinian, you should hang out.
That's the way it works,
It's
really,
the way it
isn't
works
it?
back then,
That's
yeah.
right. And then since
And then-
then, yeah.
Like proper best buds back in the day, like hanging out, fighting over Nintendo 64 games, not speaking to each other
Amazing.
until the next morning, where your mum would always cook us pancakes and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So
What was the go-to game? Mario Kart, or was it?
Well, these guys were always playing Super Mario
Okay.
for ages, and then
Because they don't look like Genos, right?
FIFA, the old the France '98 FIFA game we'd always used to play, and it would get intense.
Oh yeah.
oh
Yeah.
man,
Yeah, it was
we would
amazing.
have some big blowouts on that one.
Zelda Ocarina of Time would
Zelda.
always hum
Zelda.
something from Zelda for sure.
All right, gents. Cheers.
Salute.
Cheers.
Oh, and Steph. Sorry, Steph.
Everyone.
Keep hiding in the background with your camera. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Can't wait to suck back on this.
That's nice. Hello.
Wow.
That's gonna hit me quick.
Oh, that's a lot of flavour.
Yeah, it's
It's
beautiful.
intense, isn't it? For
It's quite thick and not very effervescent for a bubbles. Hey.
So you got a bit of a sour, grapey, like I don't mean to say grapes, but like a sour, quite
Sorry, Pete, if you're still listening.
yeah, but a sour kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, it does, huh?
I like it though.
Mm.
My first
the-
drink in
the
nearly
bubbles-
5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
You know what? Maybe it's actually just cooked. I don't know. There's not actually that. There's not that much sparkling in it.
It's on there.
There is some in there, but anyway, special bottle. I still think it tastes nice.
Mm.
Mate.
Yeah, it is.
Let's bring the book
Maybe
out.
bring some-
Let's
bring
bring that kid book out and
Yeah.
scratch and sniff.
There it is.
To Santiago's journey.
So
To the journey.
Cheers,
all the
It's
best.
a journey.
Cheers, Steph.
Off to the pyramids.
How do you say cheers in
Off-
Argentinian?
Off to Big Ben.
Salud.
Salud.
Salute.
All right, that's a third of the podcast down. That's actually, sorry about that, everybody. You can stop hitting fast forward now. We're going to go
That's a big
to
assumption, though,
what's that?
that people hit fast forward.
Oh,
Are you telling me that's what you do?
Well, they're doing
No,
it right
no,
now.
but
just done it
I
now,
When Conrad
do
starts
it.
speaking.
I do it with Tim Ferriss the first like 10, 15. and
yeah,
then
because it's all ads, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you get your timing right? You're like, boom, and you got it right.
Yeah,
It feels
sometimes.
Good, feels good.
it's great. We're going to go to Dunk first today on content.
Yes.
What is it? Is it dead?
Sorry, I should have given a better segue than that. But hey, mate, you're on.
We have touched on this topic in little bits and pieces over the course of the podcast. And I want to talk a little bit more from a practical point of view about Stoicism. And we have, I think, well, not every podcast, but I'm sure it sneaks in at least every second week. We talk some sort of form of Stoic practice or philosophy. So I just wanted to go a little bit sort of more practical on it, what it is.
But in fairness, I think we have to, well, this group largely demonstrates Stoicism because to play in the space that we play in, both mentally and in the environments outside of here, it takes a level of discipline that most don't have.
It does. And obviously, the Stoic philosophy is a philosophy of life.
Yeah.
It's something that is very practical that you can use day to day to try and control your life.
Yeah.
And its main premise is really that you can't control outside events, right? So you have no control over things that you have no direct sort of say in it, but you have control over the response to any situation. So that's kind of like the main premise of Stoicism. It's a very practical philosophy, and it's really about leading a tranquil and virtuous life, I suppose, in the end. The car is the perfect example of being in the car. Using Stoicism on a practical day-to-day level is being in the car, somebody comes up your bum. That sounds really bad.
And you're
I don't know what car you're in.
You're worried about more racist comments.
please don't cut that. Don't use it by itself.
I
But
love
if somebody's
the
coming right
bus.
up your arse, and you're like,
That's better.
that's a bit better, isn't it? Yeah. In the car, and you have you have a choice to make pretty much on how you react to that situation. We're talking driving here, Matt. Driving.
Me?
No,
Matt's pick me out of that.
Matt's laughing at the amount of work he's going to do to edit this.
Okay, so you've got a choice to get really angry and piss yourself off for the rest of the day, or you have a choice of ignoring it or acknowledging it. Yeah,
And laughing.
Sorry?
And laughing.
And what?
Acknowledging and just laughing.
Exactly, yeah. And sort of getting on with your day, acknowledging it, going, yeah, dickhead, there you go, and just get on and keep driving and ignore it. So that's kind of like a really practical form of Stoicism in its kind of simplest form, I suppose. It's originally a Greek philosophy, dating back about 300 BC. I think the guy's name was Zeno, who was the very first Stoic. And the word comes from stoa, which is a patio, an outdoor patio where he used to stand and talk and open up conversations and discussions and talk about the philosophy. So, and a lot of it stems from Plato, Socrates, these sort of guys. So a lot of these cynicism, all these different philosophies kind of branched out from the same area. And then it moved through a couple of the guys sort of cross-fertilized into Rome, and it became a very powerful philosophy back in the Roman days. And I suppose it spanned about 450 years or so, up until sort of Marcus Aurelius was kind of like the last of the great Stoic thinkers, but it's had a kind of resurgence in the last 15 years or so, especially if Silicon Valley sort of took it on, although over time it's had a lot of influence on a lot of people.
I think it's been present through, but I think
it's had a
talked about more.
It's come into culture a little bit more. I mean, I first heard of it through Tim Ferriss on his podcast, and delved into it and just was really, really interested in the practical aspect of it and the little things you can do using Stoic practices to make your day better and just train your brain. It's a superpower for adversity pretty much, and to kind of embrace life. So the three sort of main Stoic philosophers that you'll read about are Seneca, his book Letters to a Stoic, which is him discussing situations with his friend Lucilius, I think it is. Marcus Aurelius, which is probably the most widely known. I don't know if anybody. I know a few of you guys have read a little bit of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. He was one of the last great Roman emperors. I think he was actually in a bit of pop art here or pop culture in Gladiator. Mm-hmm. He was the guy on the front lines. I can't remember the actor who played him. But so about 150 AD, was on the front line of some hardcore empire building, and had to withstand a lot of stuff internally from government, from the people he was running, and from obviously the German tribes and all the guys that were trying to crush the Roman emperor. And he wrote a diary pretty much called Meditations, which is him really talking to himself and going through general situations that you would come up with sort of day to day. And when I talk about the practical aspect of Stoicism, there's one paragraph that I've used numerous occasions early morning to get out of bed. It's and I will read it to you now. So this is from Meditations. Can't remember which chapter it is, but I've literally used this, like rolled over in bed, got the phone, found this, and read it to myself. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into this world to do, or is this what I was created for, to huddle under the blankets and stay warm? But it's nice in here. So you were born to feel nice, instead of doing things and experiencing them. Don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants and spiders and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best as they can? And you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands? But we have to sleep sometime. Agreed, but nature set a limit on that, as it did on eating and drinking, and you're over the limit. You've had more than enough of that, but not of working. You're still below your quota. So I actually read that probably once every couple of months to get myself out of bed. It's such a practical, beautifully written. I mean, this is obviously all. I can't remember the best translation of Marcus Aurelius. We'll put that maybe in the show notes, the link to the best translation. But it really is. It's such a practical philosophy, and this is what I think so many people love it. I mean, from Bill Clinton to George Washington, Tim Ferriss, obviously, the New England Patriots.
Well, you just named are all great leaders and groups, the Patriots that have achieved great things, and I think it's the level of Stoicism keeps you focused and on the actuality, not on other things that are outside of your control.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, Bill Belichick, who was a New England coach, I think has used aspects of Stoicism to get his troops through winning, I think, 5 Super Bowls over the past 15 years or so. And as I said before, it's sort of kind of prevalent in Silicon Valley, in the last sort of 10, 15 years. It's become a kind of, instead of doing sort of yoga and Buddhism, it moved to Stoicism as the kind of thing to do. So, and that's where I started hearing about it, as I said, Tim Ferriss.
Conor McGregor. He's massive on it.
Okay. And I mean, to be honest, Marcus Aurelius Meditations is the go-to book.
Yeah.
That's the one, if you're gonna delve into it or learn a little bit more about it, that's one you can pick up and go to any page, read a paragraph and get something from it.
What's the new edition? The new edition, the Emperor's
Handbook?
Emperor's Handbook.
Oh, I've not heard of
Yeah,
it. Okay.
that's actually an easier read.
Like a shortened kind of...
Yeah, it's an easier
I
read.
think it's just there's different translations of it, and some are very literal as they were written from the Greek, and
Which
they're
can be
quite
hard.
hard to read. Like if you've ever read like The Hobbit, for example, it's got that, and it's even harder to read than that.
Yep.
I think there's like a Hayes sounds familiar. There's a author who's done like a very plain English version of it, and that's the one I've got. It still has that. The underlying meaning to it, but it's very much a lot more absorbable.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the connections with modern day life are amazing. One of the other practical things you can do with Stoicism, and this is something that a couple of the members of the team have been practicing over the last couple of days, is practicing a kind of form of misfortune. And the quote I've got from Seneca, let me just find it here, is... to set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, is this the condition I feared? So putting yourself out of your comfort zone, I suppose. And what we've done, Marco, Jacob, Matt, I think you did a little bit of stuff on it.
Did a little bit. See what you did first.
And Andrew, who kindly helps the Simple Minds podcast, so shout out to Rise Digital.
You.
So we decided from brekkie yesterday that we would fast, number one, so we would not eat until now, and that's been 31 hours, 32 hours, round about. We decided to switch off access to primarily social media and phone usage for the last same amount of time. And last night, we all attempted to sleep on the floor, and Perth is friggin' wintry just now. Yeah, it's cold and
Single digit Celsius last night.
it felt like it too. And I think we all got to a stage with that, which we'll discuss, I suppose, very soon. And then that's kind of it. So there was kind of 3 things. There was the lack of food, so just stopping eating, the sleeping on the floor, and we're talking sleeping with some clothes on, obviously, but on a hard surface. But I think we had a couple of different, and I know I failed at one stage and ran to get a sheet, but I kept on the floor for the rest of the night. So I went to bed it was a long, I should have gone to bed late, which was stupid. But I went to bed at 10 o'clock with Joanne, and she's like, what the hell are you doing sleeping on the floor? But so I think about an hour and a half, 2 hours into it, I awoke, shivering, completely shivering.
Ambulance there with people with white coats and taking something.
Exactly. I had a hoodie on, and tracky pants and socks. I was pretty rugged up. But I woke up about 1 a.m. and I literally had the shivers. So I felt really bad, but I'll blame that I was in a really weird haze from not eating. Went and got a sheet and just sort of used that kind of underneath me and over me, and sort of made myself feel a little bit more comfortable, and then slept through till about just before 6 a.m. And it wasn't a bad sleep. I had a pretty good sleep. I think there was some mixed sleeps had amongst the fellow troopers. Matt, you slept in a swag, am I?
Yeah, I didn't quite manage to do the full experience, but
What's the full experience?
full experience. I didn't fast, and I didn't. What'd you do? You fast? I didn't.
No phone access.
I didn't delete. This was a very last minute thing, and I just didn't commit to doing the full thing. But what I did do at about 9:30 last night is I grabbed a swag and I rolled it up outside and just.
It was
went to
pissing
sleep.
it with rain there.
It was, mate.
Was it raining last night?
I
Bucketed down.
It bucketed down. It was on a porch section, because I was still worried that there was a lot of water that was potentially coming towards where I was. But I just said whatever. Worst case scenario.
So you
I'll
legit
figure it
slept
out.
outside.
I slept outside last night.
So did I, but only from 12 till 1:30.
Yeah, but that's how
But-
long you sleep these days.
Yeah.
It's a good
but
mindset.
I only gave myself 2 shitty towels to sleep outside in and clothes. So I was frozen.
No fat on you, mate.
I was frozen by because I could max
frozen.
sleep maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, because there was a chill wind, right?
It was
Oh,
really,
man, it was
really cold,
gusty,
and so I was
yeah.
like experimenting with which bits I was happy to be cold and which bits.
He was like smoking
Well-
cigars, drinking beers.
Yeah. But yeah, I did that.
What was,
and
the,
then
what was
I-
the mental game when you were outside?
do you know what? I was drawing a lot on my Orange Sky experience. I was like,
Yeah.
actually, this isn't an option for people that. Well, a lot of people don't have an option of shelter, and I can't even put up with it for an hour.
Yeah.
I got up and went inside and slept on the floor, and it was still cold, but even relative to outside, I was so grateful that I was inside, that there was no wind running. And I think if you were getting into what we learned from it, it's a very quick way of giving yourself just a quick dose of perspective on what you do have.
Yeah.
For me, because I haven't roughed it like that ever.
Yeah.
I've never been in a position of misfortune, and a very quick exposure to that. Today, my journaling on gratitude was pretty deep.
Okay.
A good session of meditation and things, just because I was, removed from the phone, removed from even just my hunger had gone away, because actually I was like, being cold's way worse.
Yeah.
I found.
We had the other thing was the cold shower. The cold
cold
shower
shower,
in the
yeah.
morning as well. So usually I have a hot shower, then switch off the
It was
hot.
straight cold?
This was straight cold.
So when I went
Straight
to a cold
cold.
shower, I went straight into a cold shower.
yeah.
And that's because the neural bloody pathway it builds. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Did you go straight in or did you pause?
No, I went straight in. Did I?
Took a
No,
nice.
I went straight in.
Marco took a nice video for us.
Yeah,
it had
and,
Matt speaking in
actually
the
the
background.
Simple Minds podcast was playing, and it was Matt.
You were
thought he was in the
you were in the
back.
shower with Marco this morning?
I shower with you guys all the time.
Why not?
Every Friday morning, actually.
Yeah. And Jacob, how did you go?
Fairly well.
What did you struggle with the most out of the things that you gave up? Or
I think the thing I struggled with the most was the self-discipline, because unlike people that are, say, homeless or in a position of misfortune, all the stuff was there right in front of me.
Yeah.
When I was at work, I had snacks and food in the fridge. When I was at home, there was dinner there on the counter. When I was at home, Ainsley was going off to bed, and I was just going to go sleep on the floor. They were all there, so I found that the challenging part was kind of doing something knowing that the alternative is immediately there. If I was outside and I was cold and that was my night, you'd potentially be slightly more okay with it, or you'd accept it more willingly than knowing that you've got the opportunity just to go straight inside. I don't know whether it's copping out a little bit or whether it was just self-awareness of knowing that I didn't want to sleep on the floor at kind of room temperature, which was essentially single digits last night, knowing that I would have 5-10 minutes of sleep at a time. So I started the night with clothes on, just a small couch pillow under my head, or a cushion essentially. And I had the heater was already on, so I just left it at room temperature, or which is early 20s maybe. Probably about midnight, I was still a bit cold, because I strangely, even in winter, just sleep with boxes on, but under the doonas I'm pretty happy. So even with my clothes on, exposed to the elements, I was still quite cold. So I just grabbed a light throw blanket from the couch for like the second half of the night. So the discomfort of like sleeping on a hard surface sort of reminded me a little bit of my days in Army Reserve, where we'd sleep on like rocky ground in the sleeping bag, so you were kind of warm, but it was uncomfortable. You're moving around a lot. And those experiences I had back then, spending 10 to 14 days with no shower, one single pair of clothes that you wear for 2 weeks, essentially like a few hours of sleep each night, and just everything is out of your control. You just do whatever comes at you. And I even then knew that my experience during this like artificial training activity was nothing compared to what full-time soldiers do over in the Middle East, where it's 0 degrees at night and 50 degrees during the day, or the guys that are in the Middle East in winter when it's snowing, literally snowing. So that gave me a lot of perspective back then, when I was like, I'm having a bad time, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm sleeping rough on the ground, it's raining literally on top of me, everything's soaked, but I've still got it good compared to those who do this full time to sort of fight for our freedom, for want of a less American term. And
Isn't that an American term?
Thank you for your service.
And it's good. It just gives you perspective, kind of going, this is tough. This is more challenging than I'm used to.
Yep.
But it's still nothing compared to what others
Yep.
experience. And I find that quite a good practical way to apply the.
But that's what it's about. It's about giving yourself perspective and knowing kind of how lucky you really are. I'd be interested, Lucas, actually. I mean, from the Stoic point of view, have you read much or...
Well, can I interject just quickly, because I completely forgot to introduce one of the other key reasons I brought Lucas along,
Yeah.
which is, I just introduced him as a childhood friend, which to me is the most important part of Lucas's story, but a bigger part of his story as well is his journey to 2 times Olympics with the Australian Bobsled team. And, when I was chatting to Lucas before the show, there was a lot of stuff around Stoicism, especially giving up to achieve that dream. So sorry that I'm probably going to cut something into the intro as well, but I missed that at the beginning. But yeah.
Yeah, like I've heard about it, but I haven't really read too much about it. But now that you say it, I've probably had a lot of conversations of being grateful for what you have and seeing the other side of things where people are, misfortune, stuff like that. But through.
But you would have had to make sacrifices.
Oh,
right?
for sure. Yeah, like my whole life after high school was devoted to training, and then when I started bobsled, it was basically like, okay, that's all I'm doing, and I'm focused on that. And being part of an Australian bobsled team is not something that's common, and we don't have a lot of money to do. So a lot of the time we'd go over and we'd stay on someone's like floor in their basement or stuff like that, and you'd be preparing for a World Cup or a race the next day, and you'd be on a blow-up mattress, and you'd be in positions where, like, if you think about it, it's really not that bad because I'm still inside, I've still got clothes, I've still got a bed. But when you're trying to be an elite athlete, to sleep on someone's floor the night before is not the best prep. So stuff like that, and then you realise when you get to a place where you have your own place, you have a bed, and you're like, oh man, this is amazing, like, and your performance steps up and stuff like that. But you get used to it. Like even this year, leading up to the last Olympics, we were sharing beds with our teammates. We were like one of us asleep on a crappy couch or like a pillow on the floor, and so we'd still do it. But it's one of those things. Is like if it's going to get you to the Olympics or to something, your goal. Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Lucas, question for you that points towards Stoicism. Okay, so Australia's not known for its success in bobsled. Is it fair to say?
100%, yeah.
So, what was your goal?
So yes, you say that a lot of people were like, did you want to win? Were you going to go for gold? I was like, well, yeah, everyone's going for gold. Everyone's there to win, but realistically, we're not going to win. Yeah. We're probably not going to come top 10.
But did you? So did that affect the way you trained?
Not really. You want to be the best, best athlete as possible, best team as possible.
Yeah.
So
to be at your best, I would think it's very stoic.
Yeah.
And because if you're not settling, which I don't believe you would have settled,
Yeah.
and I don't think the system that Australia has for its athletes allows them to settle.
Yeah.
So without reading a lot,
Yeah.
I guarantee if you went back and read stuff now,
Yeah.
you'll see shit just fall into place.
For sure. Yeah.
And what you've learned through that process, if you apply it into life now,
Yeah.
fuck man.
Yeah.
Shut the game.
100%. It was like a goal wasn't obviously, we definitely didn't settle, but at the same time it's,
Yeah.
had to-
No, I know. I've been around elite athletes.
Yeah.
I get it. I know that you got to play.
You've got to be realistic. Like, being a teacher and then going through my own goals and then now teaching kids, you start seeing a lot of stuff like setting goals and you're like, oh, what did I do back then to make that happen? And you got to be realistic with what you're capable of. You need to have goals above your potential,
Yeah.
but at the same time you got to be realistic with what's going on. And our goal was to be the best team possible and maybe finish top 20, and that was our goal. We fell short of that, but at the same time, like, that was realistic for us, and so
What about from an emotional point of view? Like Stoicism talks about the control of your emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Being a teacher now as well,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Stoicism could be very important there, as in not reacting very quickly to a situation.
Yeah.
How are you with emotions?
So it was funny. I was teaching a health class, and we were talking about like conflict resolution and how you react to certain situations,
Okay.
and talking to them. A lot of those kids are so riled up, and when you're so young, looking back at how I reacted to things, you'd always want to justify. No, I didn't want to blame someone. You want to push away the attention from you. And I was trying to explain to them about owning your own actions, and it's funny that as you get older, that's easier to do. It's still hard in certain situations, but controlling. Okay, look, I stuffed up. I'm going to own that, and being honest. And then you're like, oh, the consequence actually wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, and you try and teach it to kids, and like they still, they still don't get it. They're like, what? No, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. I didn't yell at it in class.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's definitely looking back at the journey and everything that's going on now that I'm, teaching like full on again and stuff. You definitely notice stuff like that about emotion and controlling situations. Yeah.
Yep. Conrad, in regards to Stoicism, and what are your thoughts? I mean, you've read Aurelius' Meditations, and
I guess, similar to Lucas, I fell into Stoicism and then reapplied the lessons backwards.
okay.
Which is why I say to you, if you start looking at it now, you'll see what you've picked up, and that will give you more confidence in the application going forward.
Sure.
And we talked about this yesterday, and you guys know my stance on what you guys have done. So going through the trials and tribulations that were contained within my life, I would have had to have developed elements of a stoic nature to deal with things that I had to deal with.
Yep.
But it wasn't until I started reading about Aurelius and Seneca, in those old age, and then coming through and understanding where the philosophies of Stoicism succeed or sit with successful entrepreneurs, largely, and then use that in application to basketball and my basketball coaching. So my Stoic philosophy pretty much filters through everything I do at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, it comes from, without studying Stoicism, comes from the suffering, comes from the stuff that you've been through.
Sure. And we talked about this episodes ago. I still don't believe you have to suffer to experience. You just have to appreciate the dark. And I think that's where people look at this dark and light thing and don't understand it. And Tim Grover touches on it. And all the stuff we're talking about and we've read and consumed, there's so much reference to light and dark. But it's being aware, okay? And I'll ask you guys now, I mean, and you're all very intelligent lads, right? But did you learn anything of yourselves that you believe you didn't really know?
I think there is muscle.
In the last,
in the last 20
in the last exercise.
Yeah.
And I want real honesty, right?
Yeah. No and yes, in the sense that no, I've always feared I wasn't as disciplined as I'd like to think that I am.
Yeah.
And last night just confirmed that I'm not as disciplined that I think I am.
But is discipline, did you need that to teach you that?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So deep down I knew it.
Yeah.
but last night was a good example to bring it up and put it in my face.
In a practical
today,
way. That's a practical
and today
way.
reflect on the fact hey man, you've got some work to do on yourself if you're going to achieve some
But
of the goals.
if you're going to be a real legit fucking Bruce Lee exponent, you've got to be able to call that shit out on yourself.
Yeah. And I think at the moment I find myself hedging a lot, especially with everything that I'm doing. That I tell people like I'm not trying to be the best in the world at this.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
why
think
the
it's
fuck
in
not,
part.
though?
Yeah, and so I'm going on that process myself.
Yep.
Of asking why aren't I saying that I want to be the greatest at this?
Yeah.
And last night just demonstrated that if I want to start talking that way, my discipline's not there.
Yep.
And there are rituals and practices myself that I have to develop
Yep.
in order to be able to just be cold and put up with that.
Yeah.
But-
And
but-
so there's my challenge to you, right? Because I see what your capability and capacity is, right? And we can take it back to all the years before you today that you and I sat down and said, "What the fuck you could do anything you achieve, you put your mind to anything." Okay, and that's legit still the same fucking story.
True.
So you either want to be the fucking best or you don't.
Yep.
But that's only a one-off time you did that, right? So I feel like to say that your discipline isn't there because of one night of being outside. Like you have everything, warmth and food, and then you go one night without it. That's probably the hardest time.
It's a muscle. These
is
things
a
are
muscle.
all muscles.
Once you do it a couple of times, surely it becomes easier, and you can
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm also saying, which is my discipline muscle, whatever that is very weak at the moment.
I wouldn't say very weak.
Well, it's weaker
not
than
where
I
you
would
need
have
it to be.
where I need it to be.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that and because our conversation yesterday affected me in that. Well, yeah, what am I really going to learn from this that's new? Because it is a very trivial little exercise. So what can I learn or what can I be reminded about myself of? So that's what I was searching through the entire night for. And that's my response. So
But
nothing
that wasn't
new.
my point yet last today wasn't about the triviality of this.
No, sure. And like, I don't think that's much the point. The question was, did you learn anything new? No, but I was reminded of something really important that at this stage of where I'm at in my journey is going to be something that I really need.
So are you going to accept that challenge?
Yes.
And hold yourself accountable to the belief and actions that need to be hung on to achieve what the fuck you're trying to achieve here?
Yep.
Yeah, but that's like part of the bigger question for me is the vision. Like, I don't think you lack the discipline. I've seen the discipline
But this
that
has
you
been
can create.
This has been Marco's problem for a while.
Yeah, no, I know that, but that's not. So I don't. The discipline wasn't there because it wasn't. This was an exercise that wasn't directly tied in hard to a vision that you are working towards, but are still not even really concise on.
But it's not even vision, Matt. You know what it is?
What?
He's not fucking committing to it. He's not committing to it because he's allowing himself to not achieve it. Make the fucking commitment that you're going to be the fucking best.
Yeah, but you can't commit unless you can really clearly articulate that.
He knows what his fucking vision is,
But
mate.
I've never heard him articulate.
Yeah, he does. Tell me. Tell us. You know what your vision is.
What I want to do.
Yeah. Why do you do what you do?
To bring people the emotion of where they were.
Bang.
Great.
That's his vision.
And what did last night have towards helping you achieve that? Hence why the discipline's not there. Whereas the amount of times I've seen you at 7 a.m., 2 hours sleep, editing till late, because you're pushing through and it's directly
So you're
aligned.
challenging the correlation.
I'm challenging the correlation.
Okay.
So I'm saying you're disciplined. Be careful on how you brand yourself on where your discipline's at, because it doesn't align with what's the core driver for
But
you.
what he's saying is not useful to him. What he's saying is still very useful to him.
Of course.
I think people are forgetting that it's practical. It's not. We're not talking big heady
I
stuff.
haven't got to you yet.
Let's get to Duncan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
let's get to Duncan then, shall we?
So what did it show you, Mike? I mean, because this is what I want to know. What you guys wanted to get out of this, and did you get what you wanted out of it?
To me, I look at it as a practical exercise to build muscle memory.
So
in
did
my
it teach
head.
you anything that you did not already know or don't believe you could have gotten any other way?
I've been doing this sort of thing for the last 12 months, 2 years. This
Yeah,
is on
and
and
this
off.
is why I
These
want to
little-
know, why
little
do you
bits
feel
and
that
pieces.
you-
And yes, it has made me make decisions quicker. It's made me not procrastinate as much.
But last night, what did the 30 hours of fasting, disconnecting, sleeping, what did it fucking teach you that you didn't already know?
It taught me that it's been working, what I have been doing. That's what it taught me, because I didn't question it. I didn't, like the phone thing didn't bother me, the food thing didn't bother me, so it wasn't something, I know I'm in a place where I am learning, and my mind has changed over the last year or so. And so that's what it's reinforced to me that
validated what
that my mind has changed. I have been able to, over doing little practices like the cold showers in the morning for the last couple of years, it's worked. That's from a practical level.
Yeah.
I don't think there's conversations up here. There's conversations.
But I don't think that's what Seneca was aiming at when he was talking about that. From what I took out of it.
Okay.
I think part of it is about, is this the worst there is? And I think the point of it is to then go back to your daily life. I think that's where you're sort of going, Mike, and make that decision quicker. Take a bit more of a risk, because if you can sort of practice recreating a more difficult space, I guess, closer to poverty, or what that might look like. I think that's sort of what Seneca was getting at in that practice, and he did that, I think, monthly. I think.
Right. So you're talking now. So what did it mean to you?
Nothing. I followed through on something that I said.
You weren't even in it, man.
I followed through on something that I
fucking attempt. In all fairness, right? And I respect what you did.
Yeah, I did it because I said.
Satisfy people.
I did it because I said I would follow through on doing something.
I did it to satisfy people as well. Like I was a sheep in the experiment, but yeah, I still got something from it.
Did you get?
For me, I didn't want to sit in this podcast and say, I couldn't even just sleep outside for a night. To me, that's simple. That was easy. Right. I just went and did it.
Jacob.
I looked at it through the lens that Michael intended it. It's that there's a great piece of sort of practical Stoic philosophy from Seneca that says, if you briefly or try and experience the things you most fear, then it gives you that opportunity.
But he doesn't say you have to do it. So we know experience can be very different, right?
Mm.
Yeah. I can read the quote and go, yeah, I understand if I try and empathise. But to empathise with a homeless person and to experience it are two very different things.
And can I build on that? When you were talking about you don't need to experience the dark to know it.
Yep.
And I remember that conversation. And as you were saying it, I was like, actually, my thinking of that has evolved in that you don't have to, but it helps and makes it a lot quicker and more real if you do go and experience it.
I agree with you.
And so, and so now I agree with you that you don't have to, and then it comes down to your abilities to empathise.
Yeah.
But I think you also can't take away from the fact that, say, you have experiences like the real ones, it makes it much more core, much more ingrained.
Yeah.
That's where it's evolved there, and I think that the practicality of the exercise is, hey, you want to bump that even just a little bit, because today I've had a very fascinating day where I've been in a headspace where I've wanted to sit down and focus on my vision. I've wanted to sit down and do the stuff that normally I put off. And that's as a result of Michael putting out this challenge for me, and I got in that headspace. And I got in a similar space when I did my 4-day random silence thing, but just by myself. Those challenges of withdrawal for me tend to be like a big shock to the system, and you sit very far off the bell curve in terms of what your days look like. So I understand that for you these things are much more natural and ingrained, so there wouldn't be so much of a jolt to the system. But like, I found it a very refreshing and, to Michael's point, practical way of just giving myself a jolt.
But can I challenge all of you guys that right throughout your days, your weeks, your months, and you touched on it, right? It's effectively the empathy that's being trained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Because no one wants to be and spend time sleeping on a fucking floor.
No.
It's acknowledging what sort of privilege I have. In a way, there's acknowledgement of where I'm sitting currently in my life.
Yeah, but Michael, you know what? I don't take you as a person that doesn't actually understand that.
Because I do stuff like this, yeah.
Because you as a person, I've spent plenty of time one-on-one with you.
Yeah.
I get you get empathy, man.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I would agree with that.
All right,
But I'm not going to lay on it and just
no,
say.
but I don't think you take that for granted.
I don't. But to me,
And I wouldn't have thought this exercise would have taught you much, and I wouldn't have thought that you needed that validated.
I didn't need it validated. I just, from a biological point of view, the muscle memory that it's training in me is working for me. That's where I'm on that level. Biology.
But that's where I see. Even I think what you don't take away is that I take from you personally. I take from you that that you are already there in the sense that you have that empathetic nature straight away.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
All right, so I found it interesting. I found it interesting why you guys wanted to do this. And yes, I did rebel against the fucking thing, right? I don't have an aspiration to sleep on a fucking floor. I don't.
Yeah.
All right? Simple as that.
Yep.
Well, we weren't going to bring it up, but yeah. It's fine. Like, I think everyone just chose to do what they wanted to do.
And I got a real practical example of how I found it quite valuable for me is that something as a strength coach, as a gym owner, and as a athlete, I know that monitoring my diet and potentially introducing some intermittent fasting is going to help me improve my performance, improve my nutrition,
I actually found the fasting very useful.
Yeah. So, but it's something I've never considered. In my 27 years, I've never intentionally skipped a meal because I've always had the privilege of having food available to me. It wasn't until you suggested it, I thought, cool, it's not something I've never tried. I'm going to find it challenging. And for me, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Yeah. So my vision involves trying to improve my performance. The fear was that, I won't be able to skip a meal or intermittently fast because that'll be challenging. I've now done it and gone, that wasn't so bad. So I got a huge thing out of it.
Seneca probably released a health book back in
2000
years ago, the first health book.
Find it.
And like,
Seneca's wellness
unless people, so my final thing on it was from a group perspective, it was really interesting to see how divided we were on this and I really appreciate this, how we can just thresh it the fuck out, right? And have some pretty firm views and still be totally cool straight after.
Yeah.
And that runs very, very deep. And
that's the value we've got.
That was for me a reminder of holy shit, like we have potentially offended people here, but we can very quickly be like, but we know all the rest is good and we'll work through that. That's fucking cool. I can feel myself getting really excited because now I've just realized what the real lesson for me was in all of it.
Stoic as
which
fuck.
is
No, just the bond within the group, right? It was there as a test. It was divided. There were big opinions, and rightly so, given people's backgrounds. I found that's now for me the biggest lesson.
I like that.
Can I just give you one thing that is again.
I don't like the way you're sitting forward.
Within your.
He is
It
fucking
kind
ready
of
to
reminds
go.
me of play school a little bit. The way, anyway, story time.
So just quickly, and I'll tell you how Stoicism fits in my life. Right,
Yep.
Practical example.
Yep.
Oh, I love that Rudyard Kipling. So Sunday's my daughter's 18th birthday, and she lives down in Bass, which is about 3 hours away. And she's having a party with her mum and that sort of family. And I've reached out to her mum and said, do you mind if I drive down and catch up with her in the morning? 3 hours down, an hour and a half, catch up for a coffee, 3 hours back to get my mum back in time for the footy. And my mum goes, but you're only going to spend an hour or so with her. I said, Mum, I've had 3 years without her. Truth.
Yep.
I live it.
Worth it.
Yeah, 100%.
Worth it for a minute.
You got to take it.
Yeah, you just take it. You don't question it, you just take it.
100%.
Nice. And on a change of pace, I have a better question.
Yeah.
How does someone's life goal become flying down? Flying down a
Jamaican bobsled
no, hang on, let me finish. So, did you watch Cool Runnings? and at what point do you throw your entire life at I'm going to get down that fucking hill, or whatever you want to call it, as fast as I can. I know, I'm super curious to hear.
No one ever wakes up and says, you know what, I'm going to be a bobsledder. It's funny, people always say...
Well, no Australian can.
The sport is where sprinters go to die. That's what they call the sport.
But has it always been like that, or has it just become that?
No, like... The bobsled's not one of those sports around the world that people just wake up and say, my dad was a bobsledder, I'm going to be a bobsledder. Like luge, yes. Like you have to start very, very young from that. Skeleton and bobsled are two sports where you'd get in, after you have got into like an NFL career or like a college football, and you might have been really good, but not good enough to make the NFL. And then you'd...
The running backs.
Yeah, and then you'd be like, what can I do next? And then, there's a recruitment camp for bobsled, let's go try that. And then they find that I'm extremely strong, I'm extremely fast, I can push a sled. And you get a lot of track guys because you need guys on the back of the sled.
There was an AFL guy at one stage in the Australian team, I think a few years ago, he came out of Carlton. So yeah, he wasn't a sprinter, but AFL it's a bobsled.
Yeah, I haven't heard of him.
I
know a lot of the beach sprinters through WA were part of that initial push for bobsledders because they thought, okay, they're strong. The way they run is very similar to running on ice. So they pushed that, and I think they found a lot of skeleton athletes as well. A couple of years ago, they had an initiative to push that as an Australian, because it was a new sport for women in the Winter Olympics was skeleton. So in 2002, I think was the first time they introduced skeleton.
What's skeleton? Can you explain?
Basically, so it's like luge, so not on your back, it's on your head first.
Okay.
Head first on your stomach.
Okay.
So it's
So
basically
you know
Reason why it's called skeleton.
I used to go sledging in Scotland as a kid, flying down hills.
Yeah, 100% head first. It's exactly like that. And it used to be a sport that was done just by my men in Switzerland. So it was called Cresta. Okay. And it was basically a guys' club, and they would go and drink and smoke, and then it would just...
They're like sort of rock stars.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then it became a sport that, people started watching, and so skeleton's relatively new. But it wasn't something that was in my dreams. My dream was to be, an Olympic sprinter. And then a couple of injuries, put me on the sidelines before a couple of major championships, but... I wouldn't
Who
say
was your idol as a sprinter growing up?
Maurice Green.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Maurice Green is one of the best. The GOAT.
Yeah, cool.
GOAT. It was one of those things that a couple of injuries put me away from a door that could have opened. I wouldn't say I definitely would have made it, but and then an opportunity came along where a Facebook message, basically someone said, a friend of a friend I was talking to had obviously passed my details on to the pilot at the time, and basically said to me, how would you like to go to the Winter Olympics in 2014? And I was like, well, that's a dumb question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, yes. What's the catch? And he basically said to me, you got to run fast and push the sled fast. And I said, I've never pushed a sled, but I can run okay. I can run pretty quick. And then he put me in contact with the association at the time. They had a testing camp in November, and then did the testing camp.
This is funny, this story.
Basically, did well.
So, just to cut you off there. Testing camp.
Yeah.
First time, they stick you on a sled and you just have to run and jump in and hope like hell that everyone else knows what they're doing.
It's like an NFL combine. So basically you sprint, you lift, and you see how strong you are and how fast you are.
Yeah, okay.
And then at the end of it, they promised to fly us over there whenever. They didn't even say what time. And they said, can you guys afford to fly yourself over? And I said, if I had to, I would, They said, can you fly tomorrow? And I was
This is hilarious.
tomorrow. I was like, yes. So my training partner at the time.
Training camp, then playing.
Basically, the next day, we booked our flight that night, left the next day. We got picked up in the airport in Salt Lake City. The pilot picked us up, and he said to me, Lucas, get some rest tonight because you're racing tomorrow. And I said, what?
Cool runnings, mate.
And I was like, racing? I was like, I've never seen a bobsled in real life. So we got to this house. He took us in the garage and said, this is a bobsled. I was like, I've seen one swing. So I sat in it, put a helmet on, I was like...
Okay. And you're pulling G's, right? On your first trip, you're pulling G's?
We got to the top the next day, the 9th of November 2011. I remember this day very, very much. And I get to the top and they're like, "Oh, are you sure you want to push this thing and jump in?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a go." Like, whatever, like, you know, it seems like a pretty fun roller coaster. So I'm like pushing this thing, you know, we do our little clap and whatever, and we go. I'm running, I jump in, I'm like, "Oh man, this is pretty sweet. Like, this is cool." And we get to this corner 6 in Park City, and I've never been flattened like that. Like, I could lick my own. You know what I mean?
So where are you on the bobsled?
I was in the back at the time, so I was a brakeman in a 2-man sled.
Yeah.
And we hit about, you know, 4 or 5 Gs just around this one corner, like for would have been half a second, not even that. And then I was like, "Oh my god, what was that?" You know, we keep going. Corner 12, boom, hit the same thing, and I was like, "This is insane." We finish. I hear brake. I pull the brakes. We stop at the dock and we put the shoes on the sled and we get on the truck and the driver's like, "Oh, did you like your first experience?" And I was like, "What the fuck was that?" I said, "That was insane." And he's like, that's pretty much what it's like, you know.
How's the adrenaline?
It was amazing. Like, my heart was pumping. It was crazy. It sort of gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. And then I thought to myself, man, that sort of hurt a little bit. That was a bit uncomfortable. But then we had another run, did it again, and I sort of expected something like that to happen, so I was a little more ready for it. And then, 7 years later, I'm still doing the sport. It's taken me to 2 Olympics, and but it got easier. Like, I knew once you know the corners, you know which corners are going to come at you. The G-force, you can be ready for it. And
how do you get ready for G-force like that? Is it like a sort of
it's
relaxing or tensing? Or
exactly.
Like
you basically have to tense and hold yourself as still as possible. But it's like holding your breath. Like, there's a corner in Calgary called Kreisel, and it's like basically a 360 thing. And you're getting like 4.5 Gs of force for about a second and a half. And it doesn't sound like long. But when you look at the time and you start, I was like 1, 2, and you're holding that. You're basically getting crushed by your own body weight.
So what's the most you pulled? What's the? I think we talked about 6.
6 Gs, yeah. Jeez. It's in Whistler. It's like probably the
That's nasty, man.
The last corner. Basically, you hit 6 Gs over the first 50 meters of the corner, and if you're not ready for it, it'll slap you in the face.
Well, to put that into perspective, you said you're about 90 kilos or so at the time, and that's like 500 plus.
Easily,
kilos of force, like,
and if you're not ready for that,
that's incredible force.
Yeah, you'll get flexible in that sled for sure. You'll get down. Yeah. But
you
like
lick your own. What's it called?
100%. Mate, you can smell whatever you had for breakfast. But it's insane, and the funny stories you hear from people's first ever experience, like people like shitting themselves and stuff like that, because they can't control it. The G-force basically just pushes it, and their bowels just. And then you get to the bottom and you see these guys walking off like as if they need to go to the toilet. Oh, it's so good. I'm like, is that his first time? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, God, it's amazing. And so every time I have a new break and I'm like, just go to the bathroom before you go. And they're like, oh, no, like, I'm good. I'm like, no, seriously.
So
shit now or shit later.
Yeah, exactly.
If I ask you what's your best memory?
There's a run that we had, and I was actually a brakeman at the time. Like, I want to say the Olympics because everyone would expect me to say the Olympics.
No, I want to. What do you know? What's the best?
The opening ceremonies are one of those things you can never forget. But I remember a time I was in St. Moritz in Switzerland. It's the only natural track in the world, and they basically build it by hand every year. And I remember one time I jumped in the sled and going down. It's such a different sound. It's like not like you don't hear it. It's so silent and it sort of whistles as you go down. And I remember sitting there and I was like, man, this is amazing. What I'm doing right now is phenomenal. And just like the life I was leading, like traveling around the world, jumping in bobsleds, competing, you know, with other athletes, and basically what I wanted to do from the start was basically travel and compete, whatever it was. And I remember like getting to the bottom, I was like, man, and the mountain, the Swiss Alps, you're standing in the Swiss Alps, you're like, yeah, this is living. This is living, Barry. And that's what I was thinking.
I talk about gratitude and humility a lot, right? That allows you to take in those types of moments.
Oh yeah.
Is that what you feel?
100%. Like, and I always used to say to especially the Olympic year leading into Sochi in 2014. I used to have a saying that like we'd get up in the morning and there'd be a sunset over like the mountains, and I'd be like, oh, you can't be upset with that. Every morning I'd say that because you just be like, you're in a place that's amazing, and you're basically getting the best out of life. And so many people are like, oh, you've you always say that you love the mountains, you love the sunset, but really, like, that's what life's about.
Doing
like,
what you love
doing what you love, and you're in an amazing
Yeah.
place with amazing people, and you meet so many people in the world that have had so many different stories, and when you have a couple of drinks and you really unpack those stories from people, like, so many people come from different backgrounds and different things, and now I could say if I need to travel somewhere in the world, I've got friends in every single corners of the world, and yeah, it's phenomenal.
Do you
Oh, you just go big this one, bro.
Yeah.
yeah. Do you think that without the failure of the attempted sprinting career, you would be the same sort of in the bobsled realm? Do you think you needed some of that failure, and do you think that made you a better athlete? You know, obviously changing paradigm, but do you think that was something that had to happen to give you what you've got?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I would have never thought I would have changed sports. I was ready to give up track or even take a year off because I'd planned to
What was the injury
go to
that
Europe. Just two hamstrings injuries, and it was like at such a stupid time. It was like 6 weeks before the Commonwealth Games trials, and I was running my best that year.
and your times would have got you.
And my times I was in the top 10 at the time, and I thought if I crack into the top 8, top 6, I could potentially do a relay team. And all you need to do is open a door in the Australian team, and then it's just like it just spirals.
Yeah.
And I thought like, this could be my opportunity, but I never thought that. So I lost my train of thought then.
So I brought you in quite selfishly because I think it ties into, well, I wanted advice from you, and the reason being was, you guys talk about me not having a clear vision, and I spent a bit of time working on that. The piece of content that I was going to share, but we'll just roll without sharing it today, was around vision setting, and I'm at a point where I have a broad idea of what my vision is, but Lucas's story in saying I want to go to the Olympics and then being open enough to allow any path to get him there, not in the way that you initially anticipated, is something that I want to learn about and understand the mindset required to get there, because I say I have certain goals going into London and going into my videography career. What was it that allowed you to say, okay, actually, this is going to fulfill my goal, even though it's not how you pictured it?
It's weird because I think about that a lot, and the more I think about it, there's some times where I'm like, oh, did I just choose this path because it was easier? And I always think like, oh, well, I made the Olympics, like if I can make it, anyone can, sort of thing. And I always think like, because I couldn't succeed as a sprinter, I sort of felt a little bit of like a failure. Like I didn't get to where I wanted to go as that. So bobsled was just a way there. But then the more people like bring me back to be like, oh, well, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. I'm like, well, it was a pretty amazing journey, and what we've had to rough to get there, it's been amazing. But like, you need to be ready to take an opportunity when you see it, sort of thing. And that opportunity came to me at such a random time. And then I went to Europe and did my trip, and then I was actually sitting on a chair in Mykonos, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this bobsled thing. And it was such a random thing. Like I was sitting just thinking, and I always get myself in trouble when I think too much. I was like driving, when I drive a lot, I think, and my mind just goes crazy. And then but when you get an opportunity like that, sometimes you need to say, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna try this. And if I fail, I fail. If I don't, I'll just find something else. And I know you guys have talked about that a lot. And changing your vision is tough because you'll criticize yourself a lot. You'll be like, am I good enough to do this? Can I really give out what I'm promising? And in the end, you have to just trust like who you are and what you want. And as I was saying, I think to someone yesterday, you were saying that you want to do videography, and you've started doing a lot of that. And I find that people that do things that they teach themselves and don't necessarily go to university, they have something special about them. So like, yeah, they have that passion, and they have, when they bring out their videos, there's something different about their videos than someone who's learned something through rote learning or whatever it is. And that's what I think you'll bring something special to your videos. Will be that, and that'll open a lot more doors than than someone who just is a normal.
You're in a really interesting position now with obviously teaching, and you've got sort of kids looking up to you, looking at you, and waiting for some. Well, they're not waiting for some sort of push, but you've got that opportunity to give them that.
Yeah.
How are you facing that just now? Are you conscious about that power that you maybe have on changing some lives? There?
Definitely. Before I wasn't as much because now I'm sort of dealing with unofficially retired from the sport, and that I've told myself that. I haven't told the world that. Well, now I've told Simple Minds podcast listeners
from every nation.
But yeah, exactly. I'll share it. They'll hear it. But so now I'm more conscious of it now that I'm now I have something to pass on to someone, and someone that helped me a lot last year that I met last year has been a very influential person to me. I met him through chance in Whistler, and I took him on a summer bobsled ride, and sounds pretty stupid, but there's bobsleds on wheels. I met him, and he used to be a hockey player for.
I've seen cool runs.
Yeah, exactly. He used to be an ice hockey player for Australia.
Oh wow!
And then he basically said, "Let's go for coffee tomorrow. I want to have a chat about your story." And so he heard my story, and basically he had said to me, and we spoke about everything, and he said, "I'm going to commit to buying you new helmets for the season." He jumped on board, and if he hadn't come on board last year, we wouldn't have done half the stuff we did. We may have made the Olympics but not as well as...
What's his name?
Simon Roberts.
Thanks, Simon.
Simon Roberts. Yeah, he was phenomenal. And so basically he said to me that he was in a position in his life that he had done a lot of stuff, and he was able to help and make someone else succeed.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
And so then...
There's always those people around, right? There's always those little people around that just give you a push or give you one or two pieces of advice or do one or two things for you. Yeah. They are just there.
So that's what I feel like. Yeah, there's stuff I want to do for myself as well. But at the same time, I'm in a position now where I can see so many athletes and people just trickling into stuff that they're passionate about. And I'm like, if I can give them that push, even if it's just like a conversation we have that I'm interested about what they're talking about, and then their mind just goes boom, someone's interested, and gives them a push in the right direction.
Yeah.
Then that's what I'm here for now for sure.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what is having just maybe for the first time announced on any form of public media?
Exclusive.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's our first. We got an exclusive. It's an official retirement.
I probably should tie it into the Facebook, the retirement post, but
it's all right, it'll take a couple of weeks to start anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly,
and that's the thing.
Comeback.
I'm still training as if I'm gonna keep going, just because it's routine for me, and I can't not train. I feel like everything I revolve my world around is training. But it was a tough decision. It was one of those ones you go through that Olympic lull, or a lull after you've done something massive. You build everything up to that, and then it's done, and then you're it just sort of feels like it crumbles, and you're like, what am I doing with my life? What am I here for? And then
we do that every day.
Yeah, I know, and it just took me so long to figure it out. I'm like, what do I want to do? And I just had no idea. I was like, well, I'm going to move to Canada. I'm getting married next year, and the stuff that was happening. But I didn't really know. I didn't have that passion or something to push me going forward. And it's.
Can you say passion in your dad's thing?
passion.
Passion.
Dad,
I love it.
Dad was on a podcast maybe 4 or 5 ago.
That's right.
You might get to it. It was pretty intense.
Here's one for you, mate,
Yeah.
that I believe sums up, and you may have heard it, but I think there's obviously an element of luck that happens, right?
Yeah,
and I
sure.
think a lot of people trivialise luck, and I think Michael and I might have talked about it plenty of times. But there's a quote that they say is luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
Oh yeah.
And it's clear that you did the work.
Yeah.
It's clear that you did the work.
And that's what I keep bringing myself back to when I question myself, was I really good enough to make it? And I said, well, I put in so much work, and the people that were around me saw that. Yeah, I might not have been the best athlete in the world, but at the same time, I pushed myself to that, and the doors were open, and I picked the right line.
Like that Bradford dude, isn't it? What's that dude that won?
Yeah.
Stephen Bradford.
It's funny.
Bradbury. Yeah.
A lot of people say like, oh, that was Australia's, first gold medal, and we were just lucky. The guy made the final.
Yeah, exactly right. He had to be
was
there.
a good athlete.
He had to be there.
It was just lucky that they fell over,
And he
then
didn't.
He
had
didn't.
the self-awareness. He knew,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to compete with these top 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah. Sit
So
back.
I'll have a small chance if I sit out the back, hope that they have a crash and cruise through.
Yeah.
So he did. He had a strategy. He was a chess player at the end of the day and just
Yeah.
kind of knew,
Yeah.
But
I don't
again,
have the
But he
skills
was
there.
still there,
The
right?
luck
Was the
was-
He
point
played
of
his
it. He was
strategy.
still getting
He
close to
did the
top
work.
anyway.
Yeah.
He did the work. The opportunity opened
Yeah.
up. He took the opportunity, and that's what you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what the challenge is for you.
100%.
You keep doing the work.
Take the opportunities, but it like I remember you guys saying in a previous podcast is you need to learn what opportunities to take and what opportunities not to take. Like doing free work for someone,
Yeah.
to get your name out there. Like, is that like which ones to pick? Because if you start doing a lot of that, then your brand starts becoming dulled down. You sort of want to keep that
Yeah,
exclusive
sure.
to you.
But what the part I play with opportunity is that you've got to be discerning with the opportunity you take. But the opportunity you don't take, don't disappear. They become somebody else's opportunity. So
Yeah.
value the opportunity and don't trivialise it. Use discernment and then move on.
The other side of that is how many people would have had a similar, like how many failed sprinters would have had a door like that and had too much ego to even explore
Yeah, but there you go.
that
is-
trying it. Like that would be huge.
It's the amount of people that come over and see. It's funny, you're telling people the story and like they see the 50 seconds you're on TV at the Olympics. And then they're like, oh man, I could do that. If he could do it, I could do it. And the amount of people...
Conrad's thinking that right now.
Yeah.
I thought that yesterday at breakfast.
The amount of people that come over and try and be a bobsledder and they see the hours and hours of work of like polishing runners, which is the most mundane thing in the entire world, like basically sandpaper over steel to make it shiny. And you have to do that every race. And it takes hours and hours and prepping the sled and maintaining the sled and training, all that stuff. They come over there and they're like, no, I don't want to be a part of this. And it's the
That's still
egos
the
that basically
That's the
send
word.
them back home. Yeah,
That is
and
the
maybe
word.
the scared of...
No, it's cool, man. It's a great story. I love to hear it. I mean, obviously, I was privileged to hear it yesterday morning. And I was,
Well, I've been trying to get Lucas down to breakfast.
Yeah,
oh,
I
man,
know.
but he
I've been-
works up in the hills or something, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Forest Hill.
well, that's fine. First a small place.
That's true. I don't mind driving, actually. It gives me time to listen to Simple Minds,
That's
Yeah.
But it's cool though because we do take for granted the reach we have. We've had a Rio Olympian here the other week. A dual Olympian, and it's about proximity, right? I don't give a fuck about anything else. If you put yourself around great people, then great things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Proximity is power. Now, I've been subscribing to that philosophy for the best part of the last nearly 10 years. And I'll do anything to put myself around great people. Doing
The
great things.
opportunities that come from people you know, and if you surround yourself by people that are like amazing,
Yeah.
or like that really want to change something, doors will just be flinged
Yeah.
open, and you just
Yeah,
be like,
I'm really happy Marco made it happen, man.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what? I didn't even need to share the bit of... I'm going to link it up in the show notes anyway, but the content, literally every single bit that you guys just covered off and Lucas in your story is insane about you being open to opportunity, things that are happening for you, not to you. And that was one of the big reasons I wanted to share it.
The for you part, though, Marco,
The for you.
is the doing the work part. You'll
Yeah.
never see the for if you don't do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're already doing the work.
And man, your story is 100% about doing the work.
Fuck oath it is.
Yeah.
And yours will be, and Michael's
And everyone's
is,
will
and
be.
Jacob's is.
Yeah.
That is your story.
And Matt's.
Yeah.
Magic.
Hey, Matt.
And
I don't really like to do the work. What about you, Swaggy?
Bro.
Do you do the work, bro?
I try.
Sometimes.
Sorry, Kanye. Swaggy's the old name.
So I've lost track of time. I didn't really want to
Yeah,
end it
we're,
today because it's my last one.
No.
But
Let's start tearing up.
This is the 24-hour
We are-
episode of Simple
yeah.
Minds podcast.
Rigging for donations.
Uber Eats is on the way. Marco, we don't want this to end. Yep, look, who's got the next round?
we need another bottle of champagne. But very sad to be calling it on the last episode. But
You'll be back, mate.
look, I'll be back in some way, shape, or form. The plan
Well, we
isn't
can
to
figure
come
it out.
back to
Hook up
Perth
telephone
very
to
long.
this.
Yeah, exactly.
Skype going.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
What do
Technology.
you mean
is a thing.
figure out?
But how did you guys
Plug
go?
it in.
Do you know what? I still really enjoyed the champagne that I brought. I'm gonna say it was
I did
off,
too.
but
Yep,
it was
I
I think,
agree.
it's, I, think
sour.
I think it's at that start of
Yeah,
getting
it's
off.
at the,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I
it
enjoyed
was. I
Had a
loved
character
it.
to
Yeah.
it, yeah,
And
yeah.
then the
Had a
ruiner
story.
that Conrad brought as well. Thank you, mate. Thank you very
So
much.
I'm not celebrating this. So champagne's generally for celebrations, right?
This is a celebration.
This is a celebration because, you can get all sad about this shit, but the truth is this bloke's about to go and plug into life in a big way. Mm-hmm. He done the work.
about to as well.
It's exciting to see what's going to be coming.
Fuck, I did.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, everyone, for your contribution to that. And I feel extremely privileged to get to have chats with you guys on a weekly basis. And that thing about surrounding yourself with people, you do become the average of the people you surround yourself by. And if I reflect on the journey that I've been on over the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time with you guys, and the person that I become day in, day out, I really like. And there are things that I'm always going to want to work on myself about.
You got the rest of your life, bro.
Yeah. But, one of the best decisions, Conrad, was questioning your fucking weird Instagram posts and being like, I want to go for a coffee with you. And then, so thank you for introducing me
Facebook,
to that.
man.
So,
Work for you, work for Marco.
yeah, but hey, look, you linked me up, so thank you personally. Thank you very much,
No
Conrad.
problem,
And I'm gonna do us all proud over there as well. So
No doubt.
Quick shout out to Trav and Justin as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
lads.
The missing brothers.
There's no they're completely part of that as well.
Yeah.
Miss Travi.
Yeah, man, it was such a shame that Trav's not here because.
I hate Trav.
I was just thinking that
Mate, you
last
have to
night,
come
man. Apparently,
breakfast.
I catch up with him every week.
Travi's back.
All right, guys, it's a very heavy heart, but also
Wow.
exciting times for me to sign off one more Simple Minds. And we'll catch you all on the next one. Champagne.
Yeah.
See you later.
Ciao.